It's 17 after, so I'm going to go ahead and get going here. Our agenda for today is a little bit different than previous months because of the last bullet item there. I'm going to go over some of the new enhancements and corrections since last month. I'm going to do a demonstration as well of some of the new features, as well as give a few tips. I'm then going to talk about plan development that we have on our roadmap right now. And then I will be putting into the chat a survey link, as well as emailing out to this whole distribution, really short 5 questions, just asking you which of the features that we're planning are most important to you, because we really want to get feedback from you and potentially switch up the order that we plan to develop some of the new functionality. So again, please hang on for the whole session today, but if you don't, you'll get emailed the survey anyway. Okay, so since last time, there's been changes in several different areas. We're still focused mainly on the plans functionality, so most of the changes came in the plans area. We did add, by popular request, a user upload. So you can now upload new users via a spreadsheet. So obviously, if you do a new project and you have a lot of new vendor resources coming on and want to upload a whole bunch of people at once, that facilitates that. But there's also new fields that are available in the new user page, and that is for use with our future functionality around rosters and notifications that we're going to be talking about later. Also, a request that had come up several times, pretty much from every client site, was the ability to be able to remove an attachment from a task step once it's added. Also, we added a paperclip icon beside that task step so that you now know that a step has an attachment. There is also a request out there to have that attachment available at the workflow level, as opposed to just being at the task step level, in case in one workflow you want to attach something like a policy and procedure document, and in another workflow you want to attach a icon or whatever else. So that is in the development queue, but it is not developed yet. One of the biggest requests we got was for changing the security around plans. For those people who haven't joined the call before, there's a new option available in the blue menu of TransIT called Plans, and that's for storing lists of activities. So project plans, cutover lists, any kind of a list you can think of can be stored in TransIT and be documented on by multiple people at the same time, just the way they can in TransIT testing. And there was a request from the 3 clients who are currently using plans to change the security so that the tester level roles didn't have the ability to change activities in the plan, that they would just be able to document completion of tasks and add comments. So that went in as well since the last time. On the plans page itself, the updated column has been changed to show not just when the plan was uploaded, but also when the last change was made to it. And the filters now are saved on the plan page when you go in and out of a plan. So if you filter to say you want to see the cutover plans and go into one of those cutover plans and then go back out, it keeps that filter instead of removing the filter and showing all of your plans. Most of the enhancements have been on the activity page, though. We've got a toggle for the comments column now, and what that does is it collapses up the majority of the comments so that you can see more activities in the window at a time, and I'll show that. The next enhancement was probably the most asked for feature besides the security, and that's the ability to tab or shift tab for navigation within an activity, so you don't have to hit enter all the time now. We also have the ability to add an attachment to an activity and added the ability to be able to sign more than one person. So you still can choose free text in that field, but you can also select multiple people from your user list. Some bug fixes. It used to be that when you used the cut and that if you had a link to an issue, it lost that link and it now retains it. It also used to be when you cut and paste things around that you, or also copied them from one plan to another, that you lost any dependencies, and that's now been corrected. A couple clients asked us to look at the calculation for an overdue activity if it was within the same day. So originally, if today was the day that the activity was due, it showed as overdue at the beginning of the day. Now it does a calculation based on the date and the duration of that task. If it's within a day and there's no duration, it starts showing overdue halfway through the day. If there's a duration, it takes that duration into consideration. We also added the ability to bold the activity for more, as well as you can flag an activity as being a milestone, and I'll show that as well. It used to be when you use the edit selected activities page, if you had special characters, it ignored them. It no longer does. That's been fixed. And another request was to have field level locking on the activities. So much like in testing, multiple people can be in the plans at the same time. And so if you're in editing an activity, then it locks other users out of that specific activity. So with that, I will switch over to TransIT and hopefully be able to go through all of these features that I just mentioned. So obviously, to get to the user upload, you go to users, and I'm signed on as an admin, so obviously I have access to this. Only the admins would have access to that. So to use the click upload users here, and it gives you the list of instructions, similar to our other uploads, that it has to be Excel 97. Similar to our other ones, it lists down here the column names that you need to have. Under reports, under training materials, there is a sample Excel file if you want to grab it from there. There's an instruction here as well. If you don't put in a password here, I think everybody knows when I set up users in TransIT, I love to have the password be test. But if you leave it blank, it's going to default the password to be the username that you put in. Not all of the fields are required. You will see here some new fields, and those are around email notifications. So we are working on the ability to do email notification from both TransIT testing and TransIT plans, something that several of you have asked for in the past. So this is the beginning of it, making sure that everyone has listed in their user account the notification email address that they want to use. And we're moving towards being able to do SMS texting as well, so as well capturing a phone number. Okay, moving on to tasks then. And if anyone's ever seen me demo, then you're going to know that this is the task that I most commonly show. And it's this one here, the entering a pre-arrival document in Cerner. And you can see here's now the pay-per-click icon that shows that there's an attachment with this specific step. If I click edit beside the step, then now there is a remove link that allows you to remove that attachment. So I'll skip over the plan security and come back to that later when I can show you what it looks like when I sign on as a tester. Moving on to the other things that we talked about. This now is the doesn't just show the date of upload, it also shows the date that it was last uploaded. So the created and the uploaded date and time now show. And again, I said if you filter to a specific category, so say I wanted to filter to only my cutover plans. When I go inside a plan and then return back to the plans page, it keeps that filter so that I'm looking at only my cutover plans. And just for, I'll give a little brief walkthrough of what plans is for people who haven't seen it before. So again, we've got 3 clients who are utilizing it right now. One used it for a cutover plan weekends ago. We've got a second client who's using it for cutover this weekend and a third client who's using it next weekend. And what they've done is they've built all sorts of little plans that they used to have in Excel into TransIT so that they can better update those plans in this sort of remote work from home kind of world that we're in. So all of the plans get built and are living on this plans page. And this now is the status by each of the plan for the ones that I filtered to. So I filtered to just the cutover ones. This tells you the percentage complete across all the ones you filtered to, as well as the individual percent complete. These are the number of tasks that are late. And if I click on any of these links, it'll take me to a filtered list of just those late tasks. So really good tool for management to be able to see how you're doing in a plan and to be able to drill down to just those things that they care about, the things that are currently overdue. There's also the ability to attach to the TransIT list. I know some of you aren't necessarily using TransIT for issue tracking. I would say in plans, though, it is a nice feature to have because it then shows on that dashboard we were just on, and it also has the link right here to the issue. If you decide you don't want to use it for issue tracking, but you want to use it for the dashboarding capability, you'll have to go and put a sample issue out into your issue log and then relog it in whatever your vendor system is. So I know some of you have set up a status of exported for when you export an issue, and that's what you would do here. So you would go in and add it in TransIT, add it with the status of exported. That allows it to have this issue icon here, which when I go back to plans, allows you from a management perspective to say, okay, like we actually have 3 tasks out of issues now, and I probably need to know about what those are. So this is tasks that are in progress. This is ones that haven't been started yet. Any you've skipped, any you've put a flag on, and this is, of course, the ones that are completed. So a nice overall view for looking at how you're doing in terms of cutover or anything else. I'll remove the filter for a second here and show you some of the other things that people are putting into TransIT plans. One of our clients, so I guess we have 4 clients using it now. One of them is they are self-hosted and they are doing their own upgrade. So they're responsible for all the required build steps. And so what they've done is they've actually taken the required build steps and put it into a TransIT plan. So here's, I talked about the comments column and being able to collapse. So when you come in, it's collapsed, and I think it shows 200 characters or something. But if I click this expand icon, then it shows you all of the details for each of the steps. If I collapse that back up, it's not so hard to look at. And we do have, I think we showed this last month, we do have the ability to put in dependencies. So this link here means that this activity is dependent on something else, and what it happens to be dependent on is this one here. If it was, so it says here that this row needs to be completed before rows 2, 3, and 4 can be completed. So if I actually complete this task out here, so if I go in here and I say, okay, this one's no longer an issue, it's actually completed, and I refresh my screen, and my rural internet is very slow today, then that stop sign goes away. So the completed task fell off and is now in my completed status. And this one now says it's good to go because that stop sign is gone. I did say as well, the most requested thing was the ability to tab between fields. So you can see we can now tab between fields, but also if you ship tab, it goes back. So what this did is made it much easier to do entry of tasks directly into TransIT as opposed to upload. I figure a lot of people are going to take things like cutover plans that are developed by vendors, etc., and upload them. But once it's uploaded, it's much easier to manipulate now inside TransIT itself. Again, one of the other features here is now the ability to assign more than one person to a task. So if I wanted to assign this to multiple people, I can just go and add them. If for whatever reason I don't want Barry to be on it anymore, I can just remove him with that X and then hit enter here to close up that field or hit tab. So some of the other things are probably better to just talk about than to necessarily show, which is it used to be when you used when you highlighted a row, let's take out my filter. If you highlighted a row before and that row had an issue on it, so this hasn't, if you highlighted that row and you said you wanted to move it somewhere, so if I cut it and then I pasted it somewhere else, it would lose both the issue and it would lose the link to the dependency. So you can see that those are now still in place with the latest version. And the other thing I won't be able to show you by myself, I should have thought to ask Ange to do it with me, is the field level locking. So if I am in this task and Ange were to go in the task at the same time, she would get a little lock symbol, or if she were to go in a task and I would go at the same time, there'd be a little lock symbol, and it gives you a little message just to wait for a minute and try again. So those are the main new features. There are things that you will see that are not turned on for any clients yet because we aren't finished the development and we're just starting to work on them. So if you notice, oh, I guess let me also just talk about this icon here. So also for people who haven't seen plans before, if you build out each of your vendor plans as a separate cutover plan by project team, you don't lose the ability to see the whole plan. So if I go and I filter to just my cutover plans again, and I wanted to see a high level view of the entire plan, then that's what this icon is for here. And this icon gives you a chronological view. I have to tell it how many days I want to look back and how many days into the future I want to go. And then filter, and it'll build my entire chronological view. So when you do your tabletop review of your entire cutover plan, you can actually do it directly from TransIT. So you can see here, this here tells me that this link will take me to row 2 in plan 13. So these numbers all relate to what, and this is saying that it's the dependency is in this plan. Again, when you come in here, it's got all statuses showing. The most normal thing to do is to show everything except the completed ones. Whoops. So if I want to filter out the completed ones, I can go like this, and it just leaves me with what's left in my plan. And again, because it's a chronological view, you can see all the ones that are overdue are all in red. And looks like we got a lot overdue. And then when it gets down to the ones that aren't due yet, then they're in black. Oh, I'm sorry. I did talk about the ability to highlight a task. I think I have to go back into, I have to go back into a individual plan. So if we go, say, to this one here, and this was a go live prep meeting and it was really, really important to me, and so I wanted to highlight it, I can bold it like this. Or if there was something that was a milestone, you can use this symbol here to mark it as a milestone. There is no additional functionality around the milestone at this point, just the fact that it highlights it, but it does make it stand out in your plan. Okay, so now if you notice by my name here, there's this new little symbol, and this is our roster symbol. So I had a couple of requests for this over time. And so it's partially developed, but isn't fully ready to go yet. What this does is this allows you to build a roster of everyone who is signed on to TransIT or who has been signed on. And so I have the ability when I sign on to say, okay, I'm actually not available right now. I'm doing the lunch and learn, and save that. And I also could pick in here which roles I was covering for testing, or if I'm doing a cutover plan, things I'm assigned to and anybody else's name who I add there. So now if we go back to plans here, and if I'm the person who's trying to look for somebody to see where they are, I can click this little roster icon and it will give me a roster of everyone who's signed on. And you can see that it now shows that I'm really not available anymore. I'm doing the lunch and learn, and that I've said the activities that I'm doing are all the ones that are assigned to me. And I'm also picking up any tasks that are assigned to Brian. So this one here being the one that it's picked from the user database, and this one here being somebody free texted in his name. So again, this is for cutover plans, your roster. We have the similar thing in the testing area. So again, when you sign on, you say what you're signing on to test, what roles or what applications you're supporting, and it builds the same sort of a roster with a testing look and feel to it that shows you everybody who's signed in and what roles that they're available for. So if you wanted to look for anybody who's doing FirstNet, you can use the Control F feature. We don't have a search yet. And oh, look at Patty has said she's available to do FirstNet. So although, you know, when you've only got like 5 or 6 people, it's not that useful. But if you were using 200 people to do a round of integration testing, we think it'll be really useful to have people go in and self-select what roles they're doing and be able to tell you when they're there and when they're not there. Along with this functionality, we're developing the ability to send automated messages. And so I think automated messages is something that every client we've ever had has asked me about. And I've always been against it because I feel like if you're in around a testing or if you're doing a cutover plan, that you should be there and you should be focused on it. But you know, with a lot more remote everything these days, we are adding it in. If you want to use that feature when it's available, you will have to contact our support desk and ask to have it turned on. What we're doing is internal testing, first of all, on the email side of it. And with that testing on the email side, we're going to try to get a sense of how many messages you would all be getting. Obviously, from a testing standpoint, what it would do is if you had, you know, 300 steps in a row that were all the CVRN, it would only notify you for that first step. But if you had a step for the CVRN, and then after that, you had a step for the cardiologist, and then you had a step for the CVRN, that would be 3 different text messages. So or email messages. So we want to get a sense of volume before we start rolling it out. And our intention at this point is that there would be no additional cost for the email messaging. If you opt into the SMS messaging, because there's a cost to us for that, again, we want to what that cost might be, and then there may be a small fee per month to turn on the SMS functionality. Okay, so that I don't forget things, I will go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so now comes the part where we really want all of you to vote. These are the things that we are working on now. The second one I didn't talk about at all. And the funny thing is, I've been thinking about this one off and on for a couple years, and it's on our list. But just yesterday, I got a request from the client who's going live this weekend to say, oh my God, for our April go live, will you have the ability to build a cutover staffing model in TransIT? And that's what we're hoping to get to. So you could use it for a testing round, so that if it's a 2-week round of integration testing, you could build out the schedule for whenever, or if it's for cutover, all the resources who are participating in cutover when you need them, or if it's for that actual go live support. So I don't know how soon that's going to be ready, but there is a definite request out there for that one to be ready for April 1st. Roster, I just talked about what roster would be used for, and that's either in the plans or the testing side to be able to know who signed on to TransIT and what things they're willing to do for you. Then there's the automated emails from TransIT, automated SMS messages from TransIT, and then we are absolutely aware that there's requests out there that some of you have made through the support queue that we still have not delivered. And so that is the last of the 5 things that I've listed on the roadmap here. So this is the link to the survey. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to ask if there's any questions. And I'm also at that same time, hopefully going to be able to cut and paste into the chat that survey. So hopefully you guys can take the survey while we're talking. It says it's sending now. So you guys should all have now in the chat of this meeting a link to that survey. We will email it out after the meeting anyway. When the recording is finished, it'll be available online. And now I'm going to stop and ask if there's any questions. And of course, if you have a question, you need to unmute yourself because Angela kindly muted everyone before we started. Pam, no question for me this time? Okay, so so Sue just messaged me that there was a message in the chat. Has anybody been able to access that link from the chat that I just put in there? Covenant was saying they couldn't access the link. Okay, if it's not working from the chat, it is supposed to work, but I will email the link out to everyone. And so it says that, and I'll make sure we work offline to make sure that that survey works. And maybe what I'll do as well is I'll attach it in hard copy format. So put the question email that I send out, and that way, if you can't, you can at least reply back to say what your top 2 are. All right. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everyone joining today. Have a great weekend and look forward to talking to you all next month.
Thank you.